This is the heartbeat of human services, a peek into the inspiring stories of our community and all things DHS. Join us.
Good morning. Hey there. I'm your host, Jana Slagle, for the Heartbeat of Human Services. And March is Social Work Appreciation Month. And today our guest is Maria Bermudez, who is the Assistant Director here over Child Protective Services. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me, Jana.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us today. We know that you have, I've known you for several years, and you just have a big heart for children in our community and a love for families, Maria. And so just so our listeners can know a little bit more about you, how long have you been with the department and how did you start?
So I've been with the department for about 25 years. I started as a social worker and then became a supervisor, a program specialist, and a program director. Then now, in my current role, I'm the assistant director of Child Welfare Services Bureau. And I've worked numerous programs in the department, family services, adoptions, court. Pretty much I've touched every program.
Didn't you work with the ILP group for a little bit too, with independent living or with aging, 16-year-old?
Yes, that was for quite a long time, maybe about 7-10 years. I was involved in different pieces of that, of working with our transitioned age youth. And I'm very proud that I was able to help the county implement housing models, host family homes and scattered site housing, because there was, back when many moons ago when I was a social worker and a supervisor, there was no housing. Children emancipated from foster care at the age of 18. And one story that got to me is I had a young lady that turned 18 and she asked me to go to her graduation from high school because she had no one to go with her. So I went, and then she told me that she had nowhere to go, that she was going to have to leave her foster home, and she ended up at the homeless shelter the day after her graduation. Wow. And that bothered me so much that, here she was. And that was before AB 12, before there was the legislation that allows youth to stay until the age of 21. So it just bothered me, and she was just one story that I was aware of, that I was involved with. And so we tried to find her housing. And so then, we worked together, and we then morphed those housing models from where we were asking for volunteers in the community to be host families and using some of our ILP funds to offset the costs for some housing, for scattered site housing, into where we got where we did a partnership with the Housing Authority, and then we implemented building blocks.
Wow. And so for our listeners, ILP stands for Independent Living Program, and foster youth who are 15 and a half, they start getting involved with that. Is that right?
Yes, correct. And they prepare them for adulthood through cooking classes and different budgeting classes, and housing, and how to open a bank account, simple things that practical. We would say are not simple, but are life needs or things that you need to do as an adult. Right. But I am very proud of Kern County because I feel like we've always been a visionary. I saw the need. I brought that to my manager, and before I knew it, they were working with the Housing Authority, and we got building blocks. Now there's legislation that supports housing and supports the youth. Now there's non-minor dependents, and they get to stay till age 21. So,
wow, but Kern County was really instrumental in getting that started. That is very, very something you should be proud of. Yes. Transitional housing for youth, yeah.
And we continue to have a very strong independent living program, and have a strong collaboration with the Kern County Network for Children that has created the Dream Center, and has even been very instrumental in Kern County. And I will say that the Dream Center is a model that other counties try to follow. There's not a one-stop shop or place for all transitional age youth in counties. The Dream Center, we've had other counties come to Kern County to look at our model because it is such a great program where you have mental health there, you have probation there, you have Department of Human Services. We have an eligibility worker there to help get food stamps started. If you're a mom, helping you get assistance if that's what you need. We have regional center services there for children that might qualify for regional services. And they're in the heart of the downtown. So it's in the perfect location.
I love the location. I love that about our county, that we have that beautiful Dream Center. And some other things coming to mind are the Independent City. Were you were part of that beginning too?
I actually brought that to Kern County. I was the supervisor at the time, and I had seen that model in other counties, and so I asked if we could do it, and we partnered with the Boys and Girls Club. And so the very first independent living, or the Independent City, where it was like a mock day in the life as an adult, was at the Boys and Girls Club, and we had different community partners come in and set up tables, and it was really small. I mean, there was probably 50 youth, and we did the social workers and I did most of the work. Now it's grown to there's a partnership at Bakersfield College. It's a whole day. They're on site. So I'm very proud of that too.
Yeah. So Independent City is a whole day for foster youth to come and learn those skills you were talking about, budgeting and signing up for gas and electric and their phone, and how do I navigate when I get a flat tire, and how does that fit into my budget, and then classes, right, to figure out what their next step is if they're going to go to school or trade school. So that, I love that program. That's great. And then also or maybe you were part of the when kids do graduate from high school, we have a big celebration for them, don't we? We have a big dinner, the ILP graduation dinner, and honoring the kids. So that's something that Kern County can be proud of, and thank you for what you did to get that all started, Maria.
Well, thank you.
It's really good. So what else have you done that is something, do you have any other well, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, just transitioning here, is as you were telling me, as you've moved into the assistant director position, you kind of have a vision of how to communicate with your social workers and just how to make it a working group and enhance communication. You talk a little bit about your vision there?
So my vision has been to increase communication. I felt like, especially when COVID came, we all became siloed and everyone was sent home. I was promoted to this position in August of 2020. So in the heart of COVID. And I was at work. I was at home working and then coming in the office, but nobody was in the office yet, or it was scattered. And I just felt very disconnected from child welfare, and I didn't get to see staff. And you go from meeting to meeting, and you're like, oh, nice to meet you in person, and you see names. So what I started doing in 2020 was I just did some listening sessions with different programs to introduce myself and let them know a little bit about me. And then I thought, okay, what else can I do? I really want staff to know that I'm here, I'm listening, and I want them to know me, feel comfortable. I want this to be a safe and supportive working environment for staff.
What does a listening session, how does that work? Tell us about that a little bit.
So a listening session, they've all been through Teams because of COVID, and it's really where I am there, I invite staff, and it's ask me questions, give me ideas. So for example, we just had a listening session in January, the first one for the year. And there was 2 questions. One question they asked particularly was about us increasing our participation in licensing hours. So we were able to implement a program so that if you're a master level social worker and you would like to get your license, that we provide a licensing hours so that you can towards your licensure. So we actually, as a department, we pay a licensed social worker to oversee the staff that are in this program, and it's a program of 8, and she meets with them, and then they sign off on hours, and then after you get so many hours, you can apply for your take the test, and you can get licensed as a social worker.
So, and is that a, like LCSW license? Okay.
License.
And so the reason that's helpful is because if we didn't do that, they would have to pay for their own person to do that, right?
Yes, and I heard it's some of those that cost like $100 an hour.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So we actually pay for that cost, and the staff get to do it during working hours. So their 1 hour weekly session, or I know it's 2 hours that they have to meet with their licensing supervisor. We allow them to do during their work hours, and we pay for the licensed social worker.
So we're really helping succession planning and just helping their career flourish, right?
Yes, and
That's
it's
great.
Double-sided, because these are social workers that are learning more new skills, and they're then providing those skills and applying those skills to the families and the children we serve. So it's just enhancing the services that we provide to our families.
I love that.
So one of the questions at the listening session was, how do we increase that? And so we did do a proposal, and I took that back, and we were able to increase the program from 8 social workers to 16 social workers. So we've doubled it.
Wow.
So now we'll have more staff that will be able to work toward getting their licensure and be in that program. There was a lot of questions around in this last session about COVID testing when they have a work exposure from a family member or a child that they've been transporting that's COVID positive, and how did they get tested. So I was able to work with HR and get some clarification, and I sent that out. So in these listening sessions, when they give me ideas, I do take those back, and I try to see what I can resolve, and if I can implement it, if it's simple, or if I can get clarifying questions, I can send that out. So in these listening sessions, I do those quarterly, and I ask for their feedback, and then I provide responses. What I've also done with those listening sessions is, there was a lot of what I was hearing was recruitment and retention is a big issue for social worker classification. So we, not just social work, but a lot of classifications actually, so we started a recruitment and retention work group in child welfare, and they meet actually weekly, and it's comprised of different classifications, and they bring forward proposals to me. One of the proposals actually was increasing the clinical supervision groups too, so that was something that we were already discussing before the listening session. And they also have proposed other ways for me to continue to communicate with staff more. And so they're sending me proposals, and then we look at it, and then I bring them forward. And
that's good. It sounds like your style of leadership is very open and listening and trying to learn and make sure that they get what they need too. I love that. That's really good.
I always felt I just feel as a leader that I need to listen. Right, I can't be a good leader without listening and providing support. So that's sort of where I try to focus on, is listening. We've also created a monthly child welfare newsletter, and so we try to do an employee spotlight. We welcome any new staff that were hired the previous month, and then we have like one feature story. Last month we featured Safe Surrender Month, and we had an employee spotlight. And this month in our newsletter for March, we will be featuring Social Worker Appreciation Month.
Yay! So as we think about social workers, Maria, how many social workers do you have in CPS, approximately?
It's close to 200 social workers. Mm-hmm.
And so what are the different areas social workers can work in child welfare? What are the different kinds of work that they might do?
Well, we have what we call our upfront programs, emergency response, where you could be in the phone room taking referral, working our hotline, or going out and doing in-person emergency response investigations. We then have our court services area that handles all the court processes. When a child first comes into custody, doing the investigation and doing the petition and then moving that along through the court process. Then we have our family services program that is our family reunification and family maintenance that's working directly with parents. So if a child has been removed from their home, we are actively working with the family to try to reunify the child with their parents. And if the parent does, and at the time the parent does reunify, then we have family maintenance where we're providing supervision of the family for 6 to 12 months.
And you mentioned earlier as we were chatting the important that our department really does focus first on when we get an allegation calling into our phone room or we're worried about a family, we really want to help them, don't we? We want to provide services and do everything we can to strengthen that family, don't we? Do you want to talk a little bit about the services that we would maybe offer families?
So for us, the number one priority is always to have children remain home, and if they can remain home safely. We do not want to remove children from their home if at all possible. I was sharing with you earlier that we had received last year about 1,100 referrals to our emergency hotline, but we only went out and investigated about a little over 4,000, which is still quite a bit. But in those 1,100, we also touched those families, those parents, or those parents, the community, people that called, and we were able to make referrals for housing. We were able to then send or link them up with community resources such as direct differential response, family resource centers, connecting with housing, with food, educational services, mental health services. So we were able to touch a lot more than 4,400 families.
So just to clarify the numbers, so 1,100, was that in a month? 1,100?
11,000 in a year.
11,000. Okay, got you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. And then so social workers really are resource people, aren't they? They know what options there are for people, and so when they see needs, they connect them, don't they? Yeah.
Yes. We social workers, I say, are just amazing. They know all the secrets of the community, like what churches have, clothing closets, which have food banks. They know not just the mainstream community resources, but they even know, like I remember being a social worker and saying, this family needs a car seat. And I had a social worker tell me, just call at that time, the Epilepsy Society. They're giving out car seats. I said, okay. Something
yeah,
off.
Sure.
And it was just a conversation. I'm just social workers. That's their number. They connect. They connect families.
Absolutely.
They want to help. Social workers, you're in this because you have that heart and soul and that passion to be a helping professional.
Yeah, because it isn't an easy job, is it? It's you see things that not the general public would see, right? They're seeing really difficult things to see, sometimes domestic violence and poverty and a lot of things that I think, don't you think the general public kind of doesn't always want to know all of that?
Yes, there's a lot of trauma that social workers see, fatalities of children or near fatalities, and then the trauma that what children have been exposed to that have been abused or neglected. And that's tough. And there's a lot of secondary trauma. You as a social worker, you work a case, but you don't just go home at the end of the night. You're still thinking about the children, and the decisions you make weigh heavy on your heart because you always want to make the best decision for the child.
Right. Absolutely. And I know that our department also looks for ways to make sure and reminds our staff to do self-care, don't we? That's always something for social workers, to make sure they're taking care of themselves so they can then, take care of the families they have on their cases. So
I know for us, that's been a number one. And that was something also that was brought up in my last listening session was self-care. As a department, how do we address self-care for social workers and our staff. So I will say that we recently implemented social worker support groups in child welfare, and that are facilitated by social worker peers.
That's great.
So, and we also have created a supervisor support group, and I believe they are like once a month or twice a month, and they meet and they're able to discuss, their feelings maybe about a case, and
sort of debrief with each
other, share with each other.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And then there is a program we have, if there is some sort of death or anything super traumatic, we have a SISM group that they can go to and be listened to and kind of talk through some of the issues they may have faced. Isn't that true? Yeah.
Yes, we do. The SISM, it's been wonderful, and that is an employee that's been trained to deal with, something that might have been traumatic, a death of a child, or even a death of an employee,
Yeah.
And so we'll call a SISM and invite staff to come and just, like you said, debrief and talk through that. We also have EAP, the Employment Assistance Program, where we can refer staff to utilize. And it can be very helpful. It's free. And it's anonymous. And it's anonymous that as the employer, we don't know that you're utilizing that service.
Right.
But it's free and it's a good service. We also have utilized our licensed. We have the contract with our LCSW, Janelle Go, and we've utilized her to conduct or to offer some self-care trainings for staff.
That's so good. So we have support groups. And CISM stands for Critical Incident Stress Management, I think. And then we have the employee wellness, and now the LCSW if they need a little other step. So I think that during Social Work Appreciation Month, it's important to talk about that there are avenues for social workers if they need that, because the job is very stressful and can be, trauma all the time, like you said, secondary trauma. So those are some good things, aren't they? I love that we care about our social workers here.
Yes, we do. and that's why I'd like our listening sessions, because I want more ideas, right? The ideas come from the staff, and then that's what I want to hear, because I'm sure there's more. There's always room for improvement, but I do feel that we've really tried to implement some programs or some assistance, like you said, to support the workers.
And that's really good. Is there any kind of a myth or anything that you feel a misconception about social workers in the community or on TV or media that you feel like would be helpful to talk about today?
Well, when I think people think of social workers, they think of, I've heard things like the word baby snatchers, or they just want to destroy a family. The one thing about child welfare services is our number one priority is always to keep children safely at home with their parents. And when that is not possible, we want to place children with family members if they do have to be brought into custody. So,
in fact, we have a whole unit, family finding, right, Maria?
And so
It's
we
their
do,
job.
and and child welfare is so diverse. We have our human trafficking unit, our commercially sexualized, let me say this,
Commercially sexually exploited children. Now, that's a tough one.
Yes.
We have a whole unit for that.
For a whole unit. And it's not, and they work with law enforcement, the DA's office. They're working with victims, but they also are out there doing outreach in the schools on human trafficking, so that parents know, that how human trafficking works. It's just not on the streets like we see. I mean, it's happening through social media. It's happening, in how to protect your children. So we do a lot of advocacy. We also do a lot of trainings in the community, and we work really collaboratively with law enforcement and with the DA's office and numerous other agencies. We also have like our child family team meeting unit, and what they do is they're solely there to facilitate family team meetings so that we bring everyone that touches that child's life that's important. We bring them together so that we can make decisions about the child in a team approach. So it's just not the social worker making the decision. So we'll bring the parents in, we'll bring mental health in, the social worker. If the schools are invited, we'll also ask the parents and the child, is there anyone significant else in your life you'd like? And also the foster parents are there. So we bring a whole team together to help guide our decisions. So it's a team approach so we can make the best decisions for children. And we have a whole unit dedicated just to teaming. We also have our, resource family approval units that they're out there recruiting foster parent, or what we call resource parents, and getting them licensed so they can be available to our children.
I love the CFTM that you were talking about. I just want to circle back on that, because the approach that people, or the thought people may have, is that we tell people what to do, but we really want to include them in the decision making, like you said, for the team meeting where the parents have a say so, don't they?
Yes,
they really do.
Yes, we really have tried to implement teaming as our model, and it's been we actually do surveys after every teaming, every team CFTM, and we always get positive feedback.
That's good, because they all have a voice in that meeting, and we have a facilitator kind of guiding it. But some other things our department has done is changing kind of the way we look at engaging with parents, with asking them and helping them think through what's best for their child, right? We've done a lot of training on that. What is that SAFE? What is the name of it? SAFE? The whole training we've done with safety organized practice. Yes, SOP, right? That's the term.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about why that's important and what that's about?
So safety organized practice is it's a training on how to engage families and how to have the teaming, but when you're engaging with families, with children, and we talk about, you don't say, what are our concerns? What are your worries? What's working well? Focus on that too. It's very strength-based approaches and strategies to use with families. And the way we call them case mapping. Instead of saying, we're going to do case staffing and look at everything we did wrong. Well, no, let's do a case mapping. Let's map out the timeline of when this trauma happened. Okay, this incident happened, but what happened before that? Maybe did mom lose her job? Okay, then maybe that caused some drinking. Maybe there was a death in the family. Let's map out the trauma that has happened and occurred in that family. Let's pinpoint that, and then let's try to address it. It's just not maybe parents. This is where their point in time. They didn't just get there today.
Right.
There was a series of things that happened. How do we address the family as a whole, and how can we be strength-based? And that's really,
I love that.
That's what we've really tried to do with safety organized
so
practice.
We maybe come upon a family and we've been called because the mother or father has a drinking problem. The social worker would then meet with them and, like you say, look at how did they get here? Instead of what's wrong with you, it's how did you get here and how can we address these issues, right? Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, how do we address
approach.
It's a better approach. It's trauma. It's trauma informed.
Yeah.
And it's not accusatory. It's very strength-based.
And people are much more responsive to that, aren't they, than someone telling them what to do. You need to go do this. No, that this is a much more, okay, I'm seeing that I have this struggle and I'm open to your help. Hopefully that's the goal,
and
right?
Also with part of the safety organized practice and the strength-based approach is teaming. It comes back again to teaming. Who's your network? Your network should not be your social worker. Within your network, your circle, who are your people? You need a village. It takes a village to raise a child. Who are your people? So tell us, who are your people? Are you connected to a church? well, if you're not connected to your church, would you like to be connected to a church? If you're, was there family members? Do you have a brother and sister? Well, let's help you reconnect with your family and your family, your brothers and sisters. How do we mend those relationships? Let's help create a circle. Let's help create your own network circle. And then, you need a second layer. You need people. So, if your car breaks down, how you can get your kids to school. So a lot of what we learned in safety organized practice was about creating those networks with the families, looking at the trauma, how did the family get there? But looking at the family as a whole and not just looking at that moment in time.
That's so good. So we're really leaving them, our goal is to leave them stronger than we came in, and they leave feeling like they have gained some strengths, and now they know what to do, and they're not necessarily relying on us. They've got those new skills to be strong.
Yes.
That's great. Is there anything else, Maria, that during Social Work Appreciation Month, is there a message that you might want to leave with your with social workers during the month of March? I know you said you were a social worker yourself for years, and you do understand firsthand what that's like. Is there anything you'd like to kind of say to them?
Well, I'm very proud to be able to work with this with all social workers in Kern County, and to be able to lead this team. But what I would like to say too is I don't want to leave out CPS as a whole, because social workers 100% do an amazing job. I'm proud of who we are, but I also want to just thank the CPS team as a whole. We have human service aides that support the social workers. We have the group counselors that are at Jameson Center operating that shelter 24 hours a day, keeping those doors open, making sure children have a safe haven if they are brought into protective custody by law enforcement. We have our clerical staff that also have assisted our on-call social workers by typing in referrals, getting referrals ready. We have so many support services that make the entire CPS team. And so when I celebrate Social Worker Appreciation Month, I also want to give a shout out to all the support staff that work alongside them and say thank you. So thank you to everyone, because I am proud of the Kern CPS team, and I'm proud to lead the team and very honored to lead this team.
That's nice, Maria. And it's nice that you ended with that, because just as we try to give our families that net to be strong, we do the same here for each other. We kind of work together. So thank you so much for being our guest today, Maria. And we do thank you, social workers, for all that you do, and all the rest of the team here at CPS. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
I'm Paula Hernandez, and let's get into today's Mindful Minute. We'll be talking about physical activity and the benefits of it helping reduce stress, anxiety, and even depression. And I know what you might be thinking, but Paula, I just want to lay out on the couch after work and get Moo's Creamery Burger DoorDash to me. Okay, yes, that does sound amazing and delicious, but hear me out. Exercise can contend with problems as difficult as depression, and there are several explanations. Some chemical, others behavioral. The mental benefits of aerobic exercise have a neurochemical basis. Exercise reduces levels of the body's stress hormones, such as adrenaline and cortisol. It also stimulates the production of endorphin chemicals in the brain that are the body's natural painkiller and mood elevator. Endorphins are responsible for the runner's high, and for the feelings of relaxation and optimism that come with many hard workouts, or at least the hot shower after you exercise is over. Behavioral factors also contribute to the emotional benefits of exercise. As you strengthen and stamina increase, you'll earn a sense of mastery, control, pride, and self-confidence. Your renewed energy will help you succeed in many tasks, and the discipline your regular exercise will help you achieve other important lifestyle goals. The American Heart Association recommends getting at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity every week, and suggest breaking it down by tackling it 30-minute workout sessions. Here are some ways you can get started. Maybe try taking up biking or brisk walks or jogs, swimming, water aerobics, playing tennis, dancing. The list is endless, but choose one you enjoy. I personally do not like running and never have, but gotten the best runner's high from CrossFit workouts I do daily and swimming workouts. But I only like to take advantage of that when it gets closer to summer and it starts hitting 100 degrees outside in Bakersfield. So, what will you choose? This has been your Mindful Minute.
Thank you for joining us for the Heartbeat of Human Services podcast today. We hope you'll join us next time.